Hi, Jonathan York from Bay Financial Partners, looking at investment markets. Certainly the US got a really big boost after the latest jobs data came out. That was really very strong. Market is looking for around sort of plus 185 to 190,000 jobs. Actually came in at over 260,000 jobs created. So, that's really still a major boost for the US economy. It shows you they're still pushing on a pretty good rate. More people coming into the workforce. Still not seeing a huge amount of sort of wage inflation coming through, but really you must be getting very close to capacity now in the US economy. Now that's probably going to help the Fed a little bit because certainly at present with the recent cuts over the last sort of 6 months, they are sort of looking to be on hold, and certainly the data seems to suggest that that sort of fact at present. Although it will obviously be interesting going into the first quarter of 2020, especially when the election year as well. The Fed doesn't want to seem to be interfering with the electoral process, but certainly most analysts and economists still predict a further cut from the Federal Reserve in the first half of 2020. Now, obviously, at present, the sort of big elephant in the room is obviously the China-US trade deal. Coming up to the really important December the 15th. Although potentially that date isn't sort of set in stone now. Larry Kudlow earlier this week sort of said that that's not hard and fast, that the new tariffs will be imposed at that date. It's just sort of a potential date where they can be imposed from. Interestingly, he also came out and said that the phase one deal was still very close and was closer than it was sort of 2-3 weeks ago. Now that appears to be in direct sort of contrast again with President Trump, who's sort of saying that there's still some issues out there, and if I don't want to sign a deal, I won't sign a deal, and it's really up to me. It's not up to sort of the advisors and the negotiators that are negotiating the deal at present. Certainly evidence at present appears to point that if a deal isn't done and those tariffs are increased on December the 15th or after that date, then that will be a negative impact on the US economy. Now, obviously, if that is the case, it's not just the US economy that's going to suffer, it's the global economy. And, it will be very interesting to see how President Trump will sort of put a spin on that, especially as we head into, say, that election year of 2020. Now, just as a side as well, it looks like the USMCA deal is potentially close now. The Democrats seem to have got a working sort of framework for that. Potentially that could get passed before Christmas. The impeachment hearings also seem to have moved a little bit further forward, with the Democrats coming up now with a sort of case, abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. But as we stated here before, certainly they can get that through the House. The question is the Senate, where the Democrats don't really have the numbers. The Republicans still have a majority, so although it may get passed by the House, it's unlikely to get through the Senate at present. Just on the election as well, it's quite interesting. Anthony Scaramucci has come out and said that if Mike Bloomberg was to get the Democratic nomination, he feels that he would beat President Trump in a head-to-head. OPEC's come out and sort of announced some pretty major sort of cuts, and that has boosted the price of oil. WTI now is spiking close to sort of $60, around sort of 59 and change. But as always with these cuts that are announced on the production side, there's always some countries that will sort of skirt around those and sort of do a few sort of backroom deals, if you like, and sort of break those production barriers. Big week for the UK as well. Obviously, we've got the general election there on December the 12th. Interesting, some of the property funds are seeing some pretty big withdrawals out there. So, Brexit is still a big uncertainty out there. It's just going to be interesting to see how it sort of plays through. At present, Boris Johnson and the Conservatives have a clear majority. Just a question of whether they have enough to get an overall working majority to get Brexit through Parliament. Because if there is a sort of coalition and they don't quite have the numbers, then Brexit really is pretty much back in the melting pot. But looking at the reaction from the currency, sort of above 130 versus the US dollar, it appears that the markets seem to think the US Conservatives will get back with a working majority. Now, obviously, here in New Zealand, as we head into 2020, an election year, it'll be very interesting to see the government and see what sort of policies they put forward. Certainly, they've got a pretty big sort of piggy bank, if you like, there of sort of savings, around $7.5 billion. Most people expect that that will be spent. It's just a question of where. Obviously, infrastructure is a pretty key area. We obviously still got teachers and nurses still looking for, potentially a little bit more sort of pay out there. But also as well, regular sort of tax cuts as well, and what sort of shape they might take. Certainly as we head into 2020, it looks like, pretty interesting year for New Zealand, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it sort of plays through. At present, the economy is doing pretty well, but you have got low interest rates, an OCR of 1%, looking like it's going to head lower, at least 0.75, maybe even 0.5. Interesting here in New Zealand, the latest bond from Sinlay, a little bit higher than anticipated. 5-year bond, minimum rate was supposed to be 375. Most people thought it would come in at 375. Actually came in at 383. So although it's only just above the minimum rate, it's interesting that it was a little bit above. Some of those rates sort of have moved a little bit higher, but not really too much. Now, if you're interested in that Sinlay bond, call us on 0800 867 323. But still sort of 383 fixed for the next 5 years, compared with where some of these returns have been, it's still not great. And if you are looking for income options, say call us on 0800 867 323 or go to the website www.bayfinancialpartners.co.nz. Obviously, as we head into the festive period, we just like to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from Bay Financial Partners, and we look forward to speaking to you in the new year.